What's going on in Miami? I don't think it's anything bad for the Hurricanes. It will be good news for somebody else because notable names are available.
You are Locked On College Football, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another bonus episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for keeping it locked on with the transfer portal, wall-to-wall coverage as promised here on the show. Let's just hop right into it, shall we? So Miami's had a couple of guys along the front four hop into the transfer portal window in this particular cycle. One of those names was a former pretty highly touted recruit in Jayden Wayne.
Defensive end Jayden Wayne has entered the transfer portal. I am Alex Dono, host of Locked On Canes. Wayne was part of the star-studded Miami Hurricanes class of 2023 in recruiting. This guy was a four-star defensive end out of IMG Academy in that class of 2023. He did play in enough games. He appeared in 8 games that he has burned the red shirt, so he has 3 years of eligibility remaining, but potential that has not been reached yet at Miami. This is a player at 6'6", 245 pounds, really flashed in high school at one of the mega programs in the country and can end up developing into a true elite starting caliber defensive end. He'd fallen behind on Miami's depth chart with a couple of talented young players who seem to have passed him there. So he's going to be seeking opportunities to play and feature. So Wayne's next school, you're getting someone with elite top-end potential, someone who could have an NFL future.
Wayne was recruited by other schools like Georgia, LSU, and Oregon coming out of high school. Blue chip prospect, a guy who has got a little experience. I don't necessarily hate that. I think you might hear, oh, he lost a year of eligibility. Well, that just means he's a little bit more experienced. And don't think of getting Jayden Wayne out of the transfer portal as a move that would be getting someone who's, well, he wasn't good enough to play at a good team in Miami. Why is he going to be good enough here? Think about if you just looked at his recruiting profile, his 24/7 sports composite rating. Then how would you feel if your team landed this guy? As you heard Dono say, untapped potential, and there's plenty of it right there on the edge. But he is not the only Miami defensive lineman who has entered the transfer portal that can find a home and go make an impact.
Defensive tackle Jared Harrison Hunt is in the transfer portal. I am Alex Dono, host of Locked On Canes. Harrison Hunt last season appeared in all 13 games for the Miami Hurricanes, started in 11 of those, recorded 26 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and a pair of sacks. 1 year of eligibility left for Harrison Hunt, by the way. 6'4", 285 pounds. This has been a productive player, bottom line. He's not been a guy who necessarily flashes high-end NFL potential, but Harrison Hunt is a guy who's really been reliable as a spot starter, really a full-time starter this past season. So wherever JHH ends up, his next team is going to be getting someone with a ton of experience who can raise the floor of your defensive tackle room and is definitely capable of being a starter. He wasn't guaranteed a starting spot this coming season for Miami with a couple of the transfers that the Hurricanes brought in, so he may be seeking that opportunity elsewhere.
That's why I don't think this is bad news for Miami. This is not a portal exodus or anything of the sorts. It's just, no, Miami's got other talented players, guys who they feel are higher caliber starters than Jayden Wayne or JHH, but that doesn't mean that those guys can't be good fits elsewhere. It's one of the good things about the transfer portal that gets overlooked a little bit because the narrative around it can be very negative, which I understand. It can be frustrating for fans. I totally get it. But the old expression, I don't know if that's super nice, but one man's trash is another man's treasure kind of applies here. Let's amend it for a college football because these kids are most definitely not of the trash variety, especially guys like Jayden Wayne and JHH, who are either talented or productive, depending on which one you're kind of talking about there. One team's rotation guy is another team's starter who solidifies a position group. That's what you're looking at here. So those two Miami defensive linemen in the transfer portal can go somewhere, make an impact right away. Are we done with defensive linemen? No, not even close.
A big man makes a big splash. Akeem July, defensive lineman from the University of Houston, enters the transfer portal. I'm the host of Locked On Cougs, Park Rainsworth, and man, oh man, am I sad to see this guy go. Akeem enters the transfer portal at 6'2", 325 pounds, has been dealing with that size for a long time, is at a good good weight. Trust me on this one. He's got great balance, great hands, great feet. Whoever gets Hakeem Ajijalai is getting a really, really great prospect with great upward trajectories head over his time at Houston. Played a lot of snaps last year as a junior. Has a couple years left of eligibility after some COVID years and stuff like that. So cannot stress enough. Whoever gets this guy's getting a good one. Gonna make a big impact somewhere, even if he's not the biggest name in the portal. It's a big guy. Gonna make a big time impact for your team.
Yeah, and I think when you look at what is abundant in the defensive line right now, it is amazing how many starting caliber guys, high-end starters, are going to find new homes here in the coming weeks. Don't forget Chris Hardy at Jacksonville State. Talked about him recently on the show. He had 16 tackles for loss and 8.5 sacks this past year for Jacksonville State, which was playing at the FBS level in Conference USA. Is he going to replicate those numbers in the Power 4? No. Is he going to wind up in the Power 4? I fully expect him to. The defensive line, you've got Dominic Williams at TCU still available in the transfer portal and seeking a variety of suitors across the country. There are a lot of big-time names along the defensive line. I don't know what it is about that position. It's arguably the most loaded position in the transfer portal right now, and there are starting caliber, all conference caliber guys that are getting the job done. So, or rather will get the job done at their next stops. Do you think I'm done talking about defensive linemen? Because guess what? I'm not, and the best wide receiver in the transfer portal. After we talk about our friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time. In the NBA and NHL, baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, whether you win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. So ask yourself this question. Not which defensive lineman can my team get or should my team get. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet an automatic win. Automatic. Doesn't get easier than that. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and our official sportsbook sponsor here at the Locked On Network. You thought we were done with high-end defensive line transfer targets. We absolutely are not.
Michigan State defensive tackle Simeon Barrow, he is in the portal. What's up, everyone? Matt Sheehan of Locked on Spartans. So, obviously, us State fans not thrilled to see Simeon Barrow walk out that door because this guy was a starter, back-to-back Big Ten honorable mention. And that was going to be one of the strengths this year for Michigan State was him and Derek Harmon, the two running mates at defensive tackle, but he is gone. This is what the next team is going to be getting here. He's about 6'3", 295 pounds, and that might as well all be muscle. Solid overall game with him. Can stop the run. He can rush the passer from the inside. So he is a disruptor. Again, starter for Michigan State. We'll see what kind of a role he gets if he does go to an SEC school. Will it be day one starter for them? Will it be just a solid depth piece that you could have as a pass rusher or someone to clog up the gaps? Who's to say? Stay tuned. Whoever's getting Simeon Barrow is getting a good one, though.
Anytime you have a fan base or someone associated with said fan base, like my guy Matt Sheehan right there, saying, I'm sad to see this guy go, that's when you know, oh boy, that guy's going to go somewhere, make an impact, and he's going to be watching from East Lansing this year. Barrow's going to go find a new home, and he's going to be going, oh man, why couldn't he have stuck around? Why did he have to leave? So that is what we've got so far for the loaded defensive line group. There's already been movement along the defensive line. I've talked about the work Auburn's done at that position group. There have been a lot of defensive linemen in there, and there still are. So definitely watch for all those names. Jayden Wayne, Jared Harrison Hunt, Hakeem Ajijalai. I butchered that. I apologize. I should have worked on it a little bit more. And Simeon Barrow from Michigan State. It's not all defensive linemen, though. The best wide receiver in the transfer portal just might be coming out of Tempe.
Elijah Badger has entered the transfer portal. I'm Richie Bradshaw with the Locked On Sun Devils. Badger was a former 4-star receiver coming out of Sacramento, California in the 2020 recruiting cycle and has turned himself into a household name in Tempe over the last 2 seasons. Badger has accumulated over 1,500 receiving yards on 135 catches with 10 touchdowns over the last 2 years. The 6'2", 190-pound receiver is a do-it-all player and a big play waiting to happen. What will your program be getting with Badger? The redshirt senior is a polished route runner with good speed and can step into a role with your team as a number one receiver. Badger is a future NFL prospect and will transform your offense into a dynamic one. If you're in need of a true top dog out wide, then Badger is your.
Yeah, Badger is your guy. That's all there is to it. If your team is thinking right now, we could use some help at receiver. Do we even have a top option out wide, or do we need a better number two? Elijah Badger's that guy. Has not had a 1,000-yard season yet with ASU. You know why? Because ASU has struggled at the quarterback position. Last year, once upon a time, they were snapping the ball to a running back and a tight end because all their quarterbacks were hurt. Elijah Badger is an all-conference caliber player. He needs to find somewhere in which the quarterback situation is stable, steady. Doesn't have to be elite and high level because he is elite. He plays at a high level. And let me tell you, this is a guy who could absolutely pop somewhere. I think he's the best wide receiver in the transfer portal right now, and whoever lands him is going to be able to not completely revolutionize their offense, but boost it in a significant way. Michigan State could use him, by the way. Michigan State, I'm just saying, they were just mentioned on this very show. They could use him because they themselves are now short one other receiver.
Antonio Gates, Jr., wide receiver out of Michigan State. He is in the transfer portal. What's up, everyone? Matt Sheehan from Locked on Spartans. So what you get out of Antonio Gates, Jr., you could probably already figure it out by the name. You're going to get someone with an NFL pedigree as his dad, Antonio Gates. Well, obviously a Hall of Famer. Now, why is he leaving Michigan State? We got experience at the wideout position. There's also true freshman Nick Marsh, who's coming into the folds here and is expected to be a day one contributor. So maybe a little bit of a logjam at that wide out position. Now, with 3 years of eligibility, though, for Antonio Gates Jr., at 6'2", 6'3", you're going to get a guy that can mold himself into a contributor as early as this year if you have a glaring need for that wide out position. But that's the name of the game. A little bit of a logjam at Michigan State. He's on to hopefully greener pastures in his career. So whoever's getting Antonio Gates Jr., look, getting a solid player.
So if wide receiver's a little bit of a need, you have a young quarterback there in Aiden Childs who could certainly use with an extra target or two in East Lansing. I wouldn't push it past Michigan State to at least reach out, make an offer, pick up the phone, and just see, hey, would you like to come play for us up here? Because Jonathan Smith knows Elijah Badger from his time in the Pac-12, coached against him for the last couple of years. I don't know that contact has been made, but certainly Badger could be an option there. And also, can we just, for a real moment, have a heart-to-heart about how immensely challenging it is to hear the name Antonio Gates Jr. Antonio Gates is supposed to be playing in the NFL right now. He's not, because we're that old. It just is bonkers. It is absolutely bonkers that we're talking about guys like that whose dads I remember seemingly not long ago playing in the NFL. But that's the latest in the transfer portal. The biggest names available along the defensive line and at wide receiver. Might have to keep an eye on a couple of offensive linemen as well. Would not sleep whatsoever on Jason Zandamela. He might end up in the state of Florida. Maybe more on that tomorrow. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.